Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's another rainy, cruddy day. The wind is cut down. Mike is here. We're going to try and make the most of today because during the storm I didn't get so much work done. So Micah is going to do the world's greatest job of sanding.
Maybe.
First. And I'm going to sort out this boat. And we've got the wood stove going. It's nice and warm in here, so let's crack on.
The sun just seems bright, no clouds in the sky. Half was warm on my face, happiness all around. And tell me what will happen if I leave this place today. Tell me what will happen. Could I come back here again? I hope so. Oh, I so hope so. 'Cause
Alright guys, well it's been a freaking whirlwind of a day. Huge thank you to Micah. He's gone off home to have a dinner. I'm gonna make dinner here too. I love having this little wood stove here. It's so nice to be warm in my cabin all day, and on stormy cold days like it's been the last couple days, it's been nice to have the wood stove burning away, and we have all of this scrap wood to burn. It's one less thing I have to carry off to the dump or somebody else's wood fire. So very happy about that, and I'm happy with the work we got. Look, check these out. So collars, what do you think? Hey, doesn't that look cool? So this is actually the underside. This will go underneath the deck. This one here goes above the deck right there, as you can see. And then we're gonna get two more like this, but 1 inch smaller in diameter, to go 5.5 feet up the deck where the tabernacle grabs onto the mast. And those ones I'll have to chop in half and bolt them together to be the collar for the mast and tabernacle, and also support from the cabin as well. All that will tie together. We'll have beautiful wooden bits. And it's turned out so nice, so sturdy. So it looks good right now. It's going to get a lot of epoxy and more filleting and then glass work over top of it to seal it in with the rest of the cabin and the rest of the deck. Be all one unit, and waterproof also, which is good because we don't want any of that stuff rotting. It's very important. Alright guys, I'm going to pick this one up tomorrow, and I'm going to just have some dinner and catch up on some sleep because I haven't slept in the last 48 hours and I'm exhausted. Alright, good morning ladies and gentlemen. I actually got a decent amount of sleep, went to bed too early, got up at 2 in the morning and have been up ever since. Nothing wrong with that. But I did get the chance to go into town this morning, get a shower, feel fantastic, and pick up a little mail from Fran. Fran, thank you so much for hitting up the wish list. She got us some new blades for the power planer, and also she got us this little wooden stove fan. Now you guys have seen these sorts of fans before, I'm sure. The general premise is a heating plate sits on the bottom that absorbs the heat from the top of the stove. It goes to a TEC, or a thermal electric cooler, or a Peltier device it's also called, which usually if you pump 12 volts through it, it will generate one side will be cold, one side will be hot. It's like a really slightly inefficient version of like a heat pump, you know, but not with a compressor. And then the top side is also made of metal, and a fan is bolted to that with a little motor. And so when you put this thing on the stove, the heat difference produces a current. In this case, it's only 1.5 volts as it comes out of that thing into a little 1.5 volt motor, a 2 volt motor, spins this little fan here. Now, the thing about this one is, usually these things are about $60, $70, $80, $100. This one's $39.99 Canadian. It's real cheap. So let's talk a bit about where they cut these corners. Now, if you look really closely at this, you might notice that the metal that this thing is made out of is a little bit thinner than some of the other ones you've seen. For some reason, my frame rate makes it look like it's spinning really slow, but it's really not. It's spinning quite fast. Anyway, the other thing you might notice is it's got these weird grooves all over it. Now, what it actually is aluminum. And if you know anything about aluminum, it's got a much lower melting temperature. So not ideal right off the bat. You know, that's definitely a corner they cut that I mean, it makes it lightweight, which is nice. And if you grab this handle, which barely stays in there and falls out all the time, see if, well, now it's not going to fall out because I'm filming it. It is quite light. Another thing you'll notice in the back here, not very tidy on the wiring, just kind of dangling there. Not super nice there, obviously. I'm not sure if you even want to zip tie it. You kind of like it hanging loose, I guess. You don't want it to get too hot. Now, you know, there's been plenty of PC coolers that are made out of aluminum, so I don't doubt aluminum's ability to shed heat. But what I do doubt is its ability to handle the immense amount of heat that comes out of a wood stove. Now, this is a small wood stove, so it doesn't get that hot. And it's actually got another very clever feature to keep it from getting too hot. If you guys notice right down here, you might not be able to see it. It's a tiny little metal strip, and it's a bimetal metal strip, so it's made of two different metals that react to heat at two different temperatures. And the point of that, like a thermostat, when it gets too hot, it starts bending, and you'll notice it actually lifts this whole contraption and leans it over a little bit, and so less contact surface with the wood stove, therefore less heat, therefore keeping your stuff from melting. At least that's the idea. $39.99 is hard to argue with that price, and I guess the real test will be to see if it can stand up to the abuse that I tend to put my stuff through, and also, you know, just will it keep this cabin a little bit warmer. So far, so good. The fan has a really low pitch, but it does spin very fast. It's moving the air. I wouldn't say it's like gusting or anything, but it is moving the air pretty good, and it's certainly an upgrade. So we'll give you guys a wrap up at the end of this episode and let you know how today was, because I've only been running it for about half an hour now, and we'll test it all day long here. Alright, well, this storm is still not letting up. I know it's been like a couple episodes now of just non-stop storminess, and it's done a weird effect on me. I've been swaying back and forth because of all of the stormy weather, and the waves have been pretty big here. We've got some breakers here and there in the bay, off and on, and it actually hasn't rained that much. It's just the wind and the wave action, but I can't believe that, like, when I step on shore now, it feels odd, like I stumble a little bit here and there, because I don't go to shore very often. I spend, you know, 99% of my time here on this boat. I sometimes go several days without stepping on shore. So when the ground is always moving underneath you, you just kind of get used to it. And this boat is huge and it's very stable, but I still get a little bit of rocking here and there, and it feels normal to me now, you know? The second part of these mast collars, now we've got these rings down here, they're already done. I'm just working on the upper rings. And the idea is there's a lot of weight and there's a lot of force that I could transmit down to the hulls of the boat, infinitely more than my press of sail will ever produce. I don't think anything in the natural or unnatural function of this boat would ever break that. So I'm not super concerned, but since I've already overbuilt kind of the tabernacle, I'm going to overbuild the rings to make them really nice and big and chunky. And heck, I got the wood for it, so why not? All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Some of that sky's actually blue. It's been storming here for over a week. And this is just amazing. The calm after the storm. A little cold, not too bad. Got my wood stove. The wind's not blowing, so it's heating up the cabin pretty darn good. I got to do a tour of my fleet. By the way, just a reminder, I got to take, that's the triple treat. She's my responsibility. Of course, we got old dog here. Aranos, which is a 65-foot ferro cement boat. Beautiful, beautiful boat. I'm looking after her as well. And then, of course, Mike's still here because he doesn't have an outboard yet, but once he leaves, the caboose is my responsibility. And that one's a bit of a pain in the arse because she is leaky on the top end big time. She's sinking quick. So you always got to keep the batteries up and make sure everything's fine over there. Oh, yeah, and I think I'll also do a little tour of the bay here and just check some of the other derelicts, make sure none of them are sinking, because we got an absolutely colossal amount of rain last night. Probably give or take like 6 or 7 inches worth of rain came down last night. Yeah. Well, I'm just glad to get a little sunshine today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with the sun coming back in, before I got down to work, I thought I'd do a little bit of a checkup on those solar panels. Now, you'll remember earlier on in the storm episode, I lost 2 of the panels, mainly because I'm a dummy and I didn't bolt them down properly. I just totally forgot about it. And I lost them. They went overboard, tore one of my wire connectors, popped all the other ones, MC4 connectors out somehow. They're really hard for me to get them open, but somehow they popped open. Flew overboard about 30 feet in the air into the water and sank like a rock, and we're down there for 12 hours. Now, these are residential solar panels. All right, guys? These are the panels that people like to shun away from when they're doing tiny house builds because they're not flexible, they're not very sexy. But in my opinion, they're the best because they're the most efficient. They're the most, you're gonna get the most bang for your buck. You're gonna get the most power per square foot. And I also like the fact that you get the best price per watt. And of course, now we found out you also get some of the best reliability. Because I don't know if you could see this, but I'm pulling in 16 amps. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the solar panels work fantastic. How great is that? Oh man, that is a real load off my shoulders. Also a real load off my shoulders knowing that one day, if something horrible happens to that solar array, it's a lot more robust than I originally had thought, and that's really cool. So all I did was I waited for a nice big rainfall, which we had last 24 hours. They rinsed them completely out. I flipped them over, opened the back connectors that are sealed with caulking, and found it to be dry in there, or you know, as dry as things kind of seem in here. Sealed it back up, plugged them in, good to go. Turns out I didn't really have to do anything. Just plugging them in would have been fine, but it was nice to open the back and see that they were fine. And I can get back to my work here.
Such a computer freak.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the sun has set. We had a little bit there for a bit. It was great, but you know, about around 3 o'clock, it starts to set again, and we got the mast collars all made up, Tower of Power style. They're squeezing out the epoxy and hardening up. I do want to get back to my wood stove because you guys are probably super interested, but yeah, the review so far, it's been cooking off good. It's not anywhere near big enough to heat this entire boat, but that's not its job. Its job is just to make the space a little bit nicer and warmer, and also get rid of all my wood scrap, because I got a lot of it. So, breaking up all the cedar and other bits into chunks like this, it goes in there, and it does great. And this little wood heater stove bit on top has been doing a pretty good job moving around. Like, it's like a light breeze when it's going full tilt, a light breeze. I wouldn't say, but it's an incredibly great bang for your buck. And if you have a bigger wood stove, I would certainly go with something else. A bit bigger, a bit sturdier, but for the small wood stove, I think it's a perfect fit. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the description. They're not sponsoring this or anything like that, but anyways, that's it for me tonight. We have finally a really calm night out there tonight, and I am going to profit of that and get a lot of sleep and catch up on what last week has deprived me of, and I'll get to start this thing up tomorrow and catch up with you guys. It's gonna be a good sleep. Good night.